So what exactly is public relations? Like when someone's like, I do PR, and my first question is, what does that mean? What
Right.
is it?
So PR is definitely can be misconstrued in a million different ways. And
Mm-hmm.
especially now with marketing and there's the whole influencer sphere. It's totally like no one really knows what PR is. So I think of PR. PR is the unpaid side of communication. So um, it's kind of so if you have a newspaper, the best example is if you have a newspaper and there's a something written by a journalist in a newspaper about how they tried a product and they really enjoyed it, et cetera, et cetera. That's free media. That was you sent them a product, they reviewed it, they wrote it down. On the same newspaper, there could be an advertisement for a product that was paid for. No one reviewed that. It was just kind of paid for.
Mm-hmm.
So PR is kind of the free side, and then marketing is the paid side.
Yeah, I think of PR as it's like it's always good news, right? Like it's your job as a PR rep is to make the company look as good as possible or an individual as good as possible, highlighting the strengths. Am I 100 how right am I on that statement?
I think that's 100% right. And the job of someone in PR is to kind of, I don't like the word manipulate, but it's kind of manipulate the media into getting you the best image that you can put out there. So a job of a publicist is to have positive relations with the media. That way, say if a crisis story breaks, it's the job of the publicist to have a relationship with the media so you can kind of get to them before they break the story.
Yeah, we've all heard it. How can we spin this? The key word there is the spin. And I do think PR reps can sometimes get a bad rap as just like how can you do PR for like an oil company, right? Like stuff like that, where it's like your job is just not to lie, but it's like you said, kind of like to mislead. But no, I mean, like, even like the Gates Foundation, right? They do a bunch of charities. Bill Gates gets a bad rap too, and sometimes he deserves it, but he also does these good things, which a PR rep does need to provide. So I think a PR rep in general, it's a tough job.
Yeah, it's like kind of this weird in between where you don't want to lie, but there's always a way to spin something in a positive way. And I think that's the biggest thing that I even tell people that like want to work in PR is like your first step is spinning yourself into the person that a PR agency wants to see. I always say, "Oh, you worked at a camp while you were in high school and you want to put that on your resume? Okay, you can kind of spin that around. You collaborated with parents to provide them the best image of the camp."
Exactly. Yeah, you manipulate words.
Exactly.
Now, do you find it hard to sometimes like I guess even in sports, probably not so much. That's the NFL. The NFL. But do you find it hard where like sometimes it's like, okay, morally, this is what happened, but I gotta kind of present it in the best light possible. And how do you deal with something like that?
So it's definitely this weird in between because like, and I think the best example is like when a team isn't doing well, you still have to put them out there. It's like, it's not your job to be the media. It's not your job to critique the team. It's your job to get the clear facts out there. And so I think of this a few weeks ago, I work for the St. John's volleyball team. And a few weeks ago, we're in the middle of a game and our team starts off the set really poorly. And it ended up being 7-0, like, and we were on the O side. So we were at a timeout and I always tweet the score at timeouts. And I kind of looked at my coworkers who were sitting next to me and I was like, I can't push this out there. Like, there's no way to make that positive.
Yeah.
And so then when I'm writing a release after the game to send out to the media, it's like, how can I say that they did this, but also try not to harp on that one? And you kind of really have to focus on getting out the best information and kind of just breezing over the parts that aren't so good.
Well, couldn't you say that, listen, like in that particular instance, it is good PR because it's the truth. They're losing. Like sometimes you just can't sugarcoat it. And if you're like, again, I'm gonna use like a more serious example. Like sometimes you can't sugarcoat something and your leaders, your response, the public will thank you for being honest as opposed to trying to spin it. Because you hear it all the time. Oh, they're doing it just for good PR. They don't mean it. It's like, well, sure. But if someone's like, listen, it's timeout 7-0. They may not think anything of it, but they definitely won't think bad about it. Because it's just the truth. The truth is always good PR, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of definitely something that even I was in a class this semester because I'm also in a master's program, and we were talking about crisis control and things like that. And it's kind of your job as a publicist. You want to be in control. You need to provide the media with the facts so they don't go digging for it. You need to give them the information that they need to have. That way you're the one in control of the narrative.